Let's party.
Hello everybody and welcome to Party Loaded episode 216. My name is Luke Italic. Joining me tonight as ever we have, well, one down tonight, we've got Adrian Chia and we've got, wrong way around. See, I've messed myself up now that I've actually flipped myself properly to what I've been doing in the past. So Adrian Chia and we have Matt the Game Dad Diet in the other corner as well. G'day gents, what's going on?
Not a whole lot. It's been a pretty quiet week, nothing really going on, nothing exciting.
Yeah, nothing at all. No.
I found world events to be severely lacking. Nothing.
Yeah. News is really quiet at the moment.
I know, right? Yeah.
I'm disappointed that we didn't get the fires and the plague of locusts this week. I mean, I feel like I got ripped off, is what I feel like.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because Christian did send me a picture the other week of the UWA campus. Someone had posted up when there were still sort of meetings happening on campus. There was a poster with like the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. It was like a Bible study group, like a serious gathering of people preaching the apocalypse. So, there are people out there who will use any opportunity to, doomsay, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Oh, nice. On with the tie-ins. I like it. Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. It's, yeah. Using the opportunity, of course. It's good to see that activity on Steam at least is hitting new records this week. It's just like,
yeah, no kidding,
man.
Because they need more money.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, people are certainly kind of, it seems en masse in a lot of different places adapting to the self-isolation lifestyle, whether that's working from home or a whole bunch of other different things. There's definitely people struggling with it out there. And it's, something that I find challenging at the best of times, but you just got to make the most of it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's it. But we're going to chat about that and everything else that's great in video games this week tonight, of which, of course, our main topic for tonight is going to be getting stuck right into a bit of Animal Crossing New Horizons talk and a bit of Doom Eternal talk, which is something I've been looking forward to all week because we've both been playing a lot of that game, and I think all three of us got some stuff to say. I
thought it was Animal Crossing Eternal and Doom New Horizons.
Oh, I've labelled the segment tonight Doom Animal Review, so that'll suffice for our needs tonight. So Christian, of course, is out this week. He's actually travelling and hasn't had the time to play either of the games to his satisfaction yet, so it's good for him in a way that he's going to get to avoid a lot of the spoilery talk tonight. So kind of worked out okay. So, yeah. But, I don't know what else to sort of say. We're going to get stuck into that a little bit later. There has been other gaming, assumedly. Assumedly, is that the right word?
Yeah.
I assume we've been playing other stuff during the week. Matt, I
assume that assumedly is a word.
Sure, let's... I mean, in this new lockdown world of ours, I think we can invent new words. That's something we can do in our spare time. So
all words are made up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said that.
Do you know what my favourite made-up word is, actually, just while we're on the topic? I really like dramatically.
Dramatically, that's good.
It's like dramatic sarcasm?
It's like drastically and dramatically combined together, Voltronized into... Okay. Voltronized is another good example.
Voltronized,
yeah.
For some reason, you say dramatically, and my mind went to dramasturbation.
That's where your mind always goes.
Dramasturbation is a high level of friction, and I would not advise it.
Did you know that combining words in that way is a sign of grammatical competence? That's
wow.
In my linguistic lectures.
Well, that's clearly not true because I have none.
Well, if you had none, you wouldn't be able to realize that those are a combination of words that already exist. So therefore, you do have grammatical competence.
Oh, okay. So it's like really low bar.
Well, when we're dealing with you, Matt, everything's got to be year, and then maybe we can work it up sometime.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason you guys play Animal Crossing and I haven't touched it.
Oh, wow. Getting into
Mouth
the whole
readers.
mouth reader discussion. Yeah. That's right. Like,
Toilet paper hoarders.
I honestly think Dramatically is a faux pas that I made when I was a teenager and had done it a couple of times since, and enough that it's just become habit now. So, but it's also one of those words that I say it, you kind of instantly know what it means. So, yeah. It kind of works, I guess.
It kind of works.
Yeah, apart from the fact that I had to ask what it meant. So, maybe not.
I'm sure you would have puzzled it out. Yeah.
Or maybe you just have no imagination, Adrian.
This is the kind of lunacy that we devolve into when we're forced to self-isolate.
True.
I mean, to be fair, like when this whole thing sort of started unraveling and I was like, oh, what if my activities are going to change? I was like, okay, so barbershop, we can't really do that anymore. And we actually got notified by the Barbershop Society, the Barbershop Harmony Society, that it's actually one of the highest risk activities you can do because there's lots of like outward breathing and spittle and groups of men, and a lot of them are older, so it's actually like a really bad activity to do during this time.
It sounds like a standard Friday night for some people, but sure.
That's right, yeah. And I thought, oh, what else might be at risk? And I was like, oh, the podcast. I was like, oh, wait, we barely ever see each other in person anyway. So
I was going to say, this is probably one of the lowest risks, I was going to say sanity maintaining, but that's probably just more about consistency than actually maintaining sanity. So, the thing we could do. So, yeah, I don't know. Unless Australian internet starts clamping down on the amount of upstream that we're allowed and our quality goes to crap, which I don't think we're quite there yet. So, yeah.
I do want to share something my wife said to me this week, which brought me great joy. And it's that she makes most of the money in the household and we can't really afford to jeopardize that. So she did say to me, you just stay home and play video games. I'll go out and make the money. And I think I was never more glad to have married the woman than in that moment when she said that.
My wife went out and spent a few $1,000s in an hour on gym equipment. So I guess we've got the... Yeah, exactly. No, that's it. Like, I never actually thought this week I'd be so disappointed at the prospect of not being able to exercise, but this is the new world we live in. So, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is super weird.
Who knows?
All right. Well, anyway, games and stuff. Matt, I know you don't have heaps to chat about beyond what we're going to talk main topic tonight, but I know you've been tinkering with a bit of Stellaris. What's the deal with the new expansion? What's it?
Yeah, so I picked up Stellaris Federations. I'm not going to talk about it too much because I want to put some more time into it. I was actually chatting with students about it today because I had a student ask me, what do you think of Stellaris Federations thus far? And my response was, well, I've only put 8 hours in it yet so far, so I don't actually know yet. And it's like, wait, yeah, it requires a big time investment.
Yeah, 8 hours for Stellaris is a drop in the freaking ocean. Yeah, that's nothing.
It really is. But yeah, I booted it up. So the Federation stuff is really neat, but probably my favorite thing that came with it, I think might actually be a free component of the update, is that every empire now actually has like a backstory thing that you can choose. And so it kind of like defines like what was their history before they became the spacefaring empire they are. And those things actually influence how you start. And there's some really good ones in there. There's some really, really interesting ones. So I'm currently playing a robotic species who used to actually control the entire galaxy until something happened. And now, like, they just got completely decimated. They're stuck on their planet again, and they're having to expand out once more.
Right.
There's other ones where you can basically be like, some massively powerful alien species kind of treats you as their pet, and you're kind of growing up in that situation. And probably my favorite one, which I haven't played yet because I want to kind of wrap my head around all the mechanical changes they've had, is that in the first 60 to 90 years of the game, your planet will just randomly blow up.
Okay.
Yeah. So you have to get off your planet. It's basically like, get the fuck off, get everybody moved to a brand new planet. This one's about to blow up. So it's like a doomsday starting scenario. And I think that sounds amazing.
That's kind of cool. I mean, again, how much realism are they attempting to go for? It's a little concerning, but...
I mean, like, I don't think coronavirus is going to blow up the planet. thankfully.
No.
Yeah, we don't know that yet. It could do anything.
I was going to say, like, I think it's... I'd have to check the exact count, but you realise it's about 14 days since E3 got cancelled, so...
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's insane. Like, just any feeling of time passing, like, it feels like it's been 2 months since that happened. But, yeah, no, it's been such a very little amount of time, and I think it's just because, like, every single day it's something new. It's so strange. I was talking to my family about it. This is very much a sidebar, but I was talking to my family about it, and it feels like when 9/11 happened, it was like this massive event that we kind of felt the echoes of after it happened.
Yeah.
Whereas this feels like every single day it's this slow motion 9/11 just kind of playing out. We're still in that moment. And it's tiring. It's really exhausting. So I was thankful to spend a good chunk of my weekend just sitting in Stellaris and not getting a whole lot of sleep.
Yeah,
it's crazy thinking about. Again, I feel like it's okay to talk about this kind of thing because it's a massive world event. But it's crazy to think about the fact that Italy now has 3 times the number of deaths than Australia even has cases.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like the impact. I mean, the relevance to our hobby and to video gaming is just the enormous, undeniable global impact this is going to have on like world economies and all the numerous unforeseen circumstances that are going to arise because of it. We really are living in like an epoch. Like we're living in like it's hard to express, but we're living in the most current state of the world that I've ever experienced in my life. Like this is the most current unfolding of events that I've ever had. Even like I say, 9/11 was huge, but it did happen in another country, whereas this is happening in every country. It's kind of
like a lot of people are saying that like the social distancing is going to become the new norm. Like people are going to be encouraged to actually just stay at that distance from other people because it's not like it's going to go away. So
I don't mean to be flippant about it by linking it back to kind of like our topic of discussion, but I really have been thinking a lot this week about what the state of the world or sort of, my kind of day-to-day would be like at the moment without the games that we're able to play and the fact that we have that as a form of escapism. It's just it become more important than fucking ever.
I think it's very relevant. I think the fact that like even just the fact that because of the coronavirus, I've had like a massive reduction in my work hours, and because my uni is now all online, I wake up in the morning and I literally don't have to go anywhere. So I just sit around the house and immediately you're thinking like, what can I do? What can I do? And normally video games are the kind of thing you'd crack out when you've got a bit of free time because, you've got a couple of hours before you have to be at this job or be at that class or be at that appointment. But now it's like, well, shit, video games are now one of the main sources of entertainment home all the time. So, and I know for a lot of people, they already consume video games on that level, but we're going to see like a massive jump in the amount of consumption. And like you say, Steam sales are a direct reflection of that. I'm really interested to see how it affects the industry, and Matt might know more about that, but I have no idea because I'm not plugged into it. But, little things, for example, like, was it GOG that was giving away a handful of games? Like,
they had Stanley Parable and Watch Dogs free a couple of days ago. I think it might even be free still now. Steam was doing Tomb Raider, the first Tomb Raider game of the reboot trilogy for free as well, which, I mean, granted that's like a, 5-year-old game now, I think? Maybe 6 years old? Still a really freaking good game, and to give that away for free is like something special, so yeah.
So anyway, very interesting. And I wonder if sort of long-term subscription games, things like Destiny, well, not subscription, but stuff like games as a service games, Destiny, WoW, the kind of games where you sink a lot of time into. I wonder if they're going to see a rise in popularity as well.
Because the thing I was going to say was like, while I was teaching classes today, like all of my stuff now, like I was teaching from home because like, the instructors basically try to avoid coming into work as much as possible. And so if I can teach from home, I will. And like while we were there, like we were like, first 30 minutes we were dealing with some technical issues, but I was also just kind of like making students like relax, like we're all here, we're all kind of dealing with this situation together. And one of them ended out being like, well, while you're fixing technical issues, I'm just going to be sitting here using the screen share to show me playing Doom Eternal. And it's like, go right ahead.
Yeah.
Like,
in any other lecture, that would be like, video game, what? But in your
like, but
hey.
last night I was teaching game level design, and I know for a fact that 2 students were playing Animal Crossing, and I made a show of pulling out my Switch when we were done with the lecture and sitting there on screen on my webcam playing. And it's an escapism thing. You just can't constantly be dealing with reality without having some means of getting away from that. And I think games are perfect for it.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, without going into a lot of detail, I'm very, very fortunate at the moment that the company that I work for, which is a gaming company, is one of the ones that's actually perfectly positioned to ride this storm pretty well. So that gives me a sort of confidence that I wouldn't otherwise have, and it also makes me very aware that I'm kind of like in this example, I'm the very definition of the first world when it comes to everybody else's problems. So I'm trying to be extremely mindful of that and realize how freaking lucky I am as well. So like, because this kind of ties into your situation, Luke, and what you had mentioned, Adrian, like about the broader impact on the games industry. I think what it's going to do is that we're going to see probably dozens of games that were very, very clearly slated for release this year, not release this year. Yeah.
Like, it's just, people are working from home, and it's going to slow it down.
I wonder how many new indie efforts we'll see as a result of people being forced to be home as well, because they're kind of in an environment where their creativity maybe has a chance to get a new breath of air that it wouldn't have otherwise had.
Well,
so
the thing with indies is like, absolutely what we're going to see this year is less indie games
released, but maybe not less worked on potentially.
Potentially, but like a lot of those people that make games like Untitled Goose Game and such were making deals with like Epic Games Store and everything during last year's GDC, and that hasn't had to have a chance to happen this year. So all of those indie game deals just haven't taken place, and so it will probably mean that we won't see quite the output of indie titles later this year because there's not so much funding going around for them. So
super weird. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, it was true at the time where at the beginning of the year we said that 2020 is going to be a super weird year for games, but not in the way that we ever expected. Holy crap!
Yeah,
it's just
which one of us that predicted that this year? In gaming, we were predicting like the plague was going to hit and like fuck everything up, because that person. Like I would drink.
Sounds like some bullshit Christian would say.
Let's just hang it on Christian because he's not here himself.
Yeah. It was out of malice, no actual sort of prognosticating talent or anything like that. So yeah.
Just I hope a plague hits.
Absolutely. Oh god. No. Well, yeah, I've still been playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps, so I've had a fair bit of time this week to still do that in amongst everything else that's been going on, because, hey, not going to lie, played a bit of games this week, so, and that's been really super, super good. Like, Ori is still proving to be really innovative when it comes to different ways that the game changes as you play. Like, I think much more than the Blind Forest, like the first Ori game, which was a very tough platformer, but you kind of had like that big twist where you started getting a lot of the aerial abilities kind of midway through the game, and then the game sort of stopped being as much about sort of standard platforming, and it became a lot more about kind of precision aerial antics. This game, I think, goes through several of those phases. Like, it changes up at different intervals, so that you could almost break the game into like a half dozen different segments where you have to change the way that you do things. And I spoke a little bit last week about like the level which had the lighting aspect. There's other areas too which deal with a lot more sort of chase scene type mechanics and things like that, where like a lot of the focus is on just being really freaking quick as opposed to being precise. You just have to get the hell out of places and move really, really quickly.
It's like Rayman.
Rayman
the new Rayman games have like a chase mechanic in their platforming where in certain levels there's like a monster chasing you, or the level is collapsing, or there's like a wave of fire behind you, and you have to like very quickly run through the level and do very quick sort of quick thinking and quick platforming.
Yeah, I don't know. Is Rayman in a certain way where there's a lot of different solutions to that problem in terms of how you can go?
No, not so much. It's like one. It's more like Meat Boy-ish. Like there's one way to get it done, and you got to get there. You know, it's just a lot of wall jumping, basically. Like quickly hit that ledge, get up there. But
the trick with Ori is that a lot of those sort of chase scene mechanics are revolving around like the environment rapidly changing as you're moving. So, say for example, there's this scene where there's a huge sort of collapsing sort of water wheel and a flood that's basically washing you out, and you have to get ahead of it. And there's other stuff happening as well, which I won't go into because it's a bit more spoilery. But there's wooden platforms and gantryways and stuff that are literally falling apart as you're leaping onto them, and you have to time it right so that some of the stuff that's blocking your progress actually collapses first before you can get through it. So even if you're going really, really quick and you're kind of ahead of where you need to be, there's a point at which the game forces you to slow down, because if you get too far ahead, the game says, fuck you, we're not ready to let you through this bit yet. There you go. Good luck now that you're only a meter away from this thing. So it's kind of that weird balancing mechanic to make sure that you've always got that real sort of sense of tension the whole way through, as opposed to like being super godlike in your platforming ability and just gunning ahead and then not having to worry because you think you've got tons of breathing space. So it messes with you like that. It's really good at messing with you like that and keeping the pressure on. So yeah, cool. But still phenomenal game. Like I every boss encounter has been fantastic. I think it's a lot more consistently rewarding than Blind Forest as well, in that there's a lot of different ways you can play the game, like the way that your abilities work and the different sort of skills that you can sort of switch in and out of your grid as well. It's got a super in-depth advancement system, gives you a lot more range of choice as to how you want to play compared to its predecessor. So I think that they've shown a lot of confidence with this one, in that they can really open up the scope on how you can play it, and it still works, as opposed to kind of forcing you down a narrow path, which is good. So yeah, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, still super, super good. Adrian, have you done anything other than our main games this week? Or
apart from Street Fighter, because although my time in Street Fighter has lessened due to Doom, but in the sort of interim period, a couple of days where I was waiting for it to come out, I remember saying that I was playing, I almost said Orcs and Goblins, but Orcs Must Die.
Orcs Must Die, yeah.
Yeah, so I went back to playing that yesterday after finishing Doom and playing a bit more Doom. I found that I was drawn in by the tower defense mechanic and wanting to get like a perfect score on every level. So the game has 3 difficulty levels. It's like easy, medium, hard, basically. And I'm trying to get perfect scores on the medium difficulty all the way through. And I already know that once you unlock everything, you can play it through on the harder difficulty with all your tools available to you. And I definitely foresee me doing that, because I'm quite keen to give that a go. So I played a bit more of that, but apart from that, nothing else really stands out.
Yeah.
I think what I like about Orcs Must Die in that respect, and the fact that there's that nice push for getting better constantly, is there's really good feedback when you see what you've done wrong. Like, you can see, like, okay, like, this side was totally weak, and, like, either I need to set up traps better there, or I need to place myself there and help the traps out in everything.
It's interesting as a tower, like, because I haven't played. I know there are other tower defense style games where you occupy like a third person, like avatar on the screen, and you run around like on the ground. I know there are other games that do that. This is the first game of that type that I've played, and I was really drawn in by the fact that you can put traps pretty much in any configuration on a flat surface, and the same on the walls. So the game is set inside like a wizard's tower, which is more like a dungeon, and each level is a different layout with different pathways and different environmental hazards and whatnot. But you get like a series of tools, and you can place them in like grid style on the ground. And what's really interesting is you eventually get a tool called the barricade, which is just like an immovable block, which you can literally block off passageways and create your own like funneling effect on the hordes. And that, as soon as I got that, I was like, holy shit, this is awesome, because then you can start blocking off alternate routes, and then because the orcs are a dumb AI, they'll just run toward the barricade, turn around, and run the other way when they realize they can't go that way, and then you can funnel them into like a death tunnel where you just set up spinning blades on the wall and watch them all just run down, and then you put tar pits on the ground, and they just funnel down this hallway of death. And there's a strange satisfaction in just watching them all get like gibbed as like this giant wrecking ball just swings past.
What you're describing reminds me a lot of how I used to play They Are Billions, like creating those sort of death funnels for corralling them into. Yeah,
it's like a kill lane basically. So I'm enjoying that at this difficulty. I imagine it's going to be very different on the harder difficulty. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got someone in chat asking if we've taken our daily dose of bleach. So I don't know who that's referring to. Anybody need a cleanser? Is that what we're talking about?
I've heard that keeps away the coronavirus.
Yeah, absolutely.
I better get on that.
It takes the problem away permanently, I hear. So yeah. Clean living, yeah. Just on the topic, Adrian, you were mentioning of people sort of during this period kind of finding some of those sort of longer term ongoing games as like a kind of like a de-stress or like a safe sort of spot to sort of have a comfort zone ongoing. I've actually been dedicating a lot of thought in the last week or so to setting up a large new Minecraft server. And I'm thinking that what I actually want to do is different to what I've done in recent history with regards to sort of playing hardcore or different sort of variants. I've been watching a series on YouTube, which anyone who's a fan of Minecraft might have seen or heard of this before. There's a bunch of really well-known Minecraft streamers that do a series called Hermitcraft. Which is basically where they have a server set up with, I think it's about a dozen or a couple of dozen sort of well-known streamers, and they actually use this as a kind of melting pot to create content from. So they'll do like a season of like Hermitcraft. I think they're up to about season 7 or whatever, and each season tends to last for like a year or more. And they all just collaboratively build and sort of, become a community on this server and just make a ton of videos about it. But they do some really, really cool things that sort of encourages community play and sort of builds out like a more of a legacy sort of on that server than what I've seen in the past. Like they actually set up... I don't know. It's not a commonly known thing, but there's a particular biome in Minecraft, like one of the different environments, called the Mushroom Island, and it's basically like an island where there's like podzol as the surface, and it grows like heaps and heaps of mushrooms, and there's these weird mushroom cows that sort of are there. But the one unique thing about that biome, mushrooms, yeah, the unique thing about that biome is that no mobs spawn there, no hostile mobs at all. So what they've done is they've actually got a server with that as the central point, and they've created a shopping district on that island, so that they're all building these really elaborate shops, knowing that it's not going to like get creeper bombed or have something spawn near it that's going to destroy the structures. And they've actually created this economy, which is based on diamonds, where like a whole bunch of different people specialize in gathering a particular type of good and then selling it in their store, so that it reduces the messing around of the others having to gather large quantities of that thing so they can get on with really cool building projects. And as a result, like it's actually made diamonds as a currency like a lot more important too, because it then gets sort of traded and bartered with each other because it's got this additional value being able to pay for resources as well. I think it's fascinating, and I actually want to do it for real, like with a bunch of people that I know. I think it'd be the coolest.
Can I be the dirt merchant?
If you dirt merchant. So how many diamonds would you sell them for?
1 diamond for 1 block of dirt.
That sounds dirt cheap.
No, it doesn't.
No, it sounds awesome. So I'm gonna put it together over the next week, I think. And I think for anybody who's actually confined to quarters and spending a lot of time at home and wants something like fun and more community driven and has like an opportunity to play and sort of interact with people, I'm gonna post up details for it. I am gonna set it up on the Bedrock version of Minecraft as opposed to the Java version. The main difference being that Bedrock is the one that's playable on all the different consoles, and if you've got a Switch, you can play Minecraft on that server on Switch. Because I've got a couple of friends who have Switches and they like to play Minecraft on the go on those as well. I would normally play the Java version of Minecraft because it's got a whole bunch of stuff that you can do on it, like mods and things like that. But I'll set it up for that. But if anyone's interested, hit me up on Twitter and I'll see if we can actually get a good little crew going. I think it'd be a lot of fun. So yeah,
playing Minecraft without a mouse just sounds awful. Like I just don't even want to.
I've played Minecraft a bunch on iPad, and it's not as bad as you think. So,
yeah, I don't know. Do we really want those kinds of people in our brave new world, Luke?
are we talking about gathering this new world of ours based on Minecraft platform access?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to create some sort of cyber utopia, don't we want to curate the kind of people we have living in? Just saying.
Sure.
So Smash players are definitely out.
Yeah.
You have to ask if it's a problem with the breather or the breathing apparatus, though. That's what it really comes down to. So,
yeah, well, we'll see.
Yeah. Anyway, speaking of problems with mouth breathers, let's kick on into some gaming news for this week. Because, man, hot off the topic this week, we've got a perler with regards to current recent events. So, all right, GameStop over in the US, and by extension, that's the entire sort of chain of retail games places, not limited to EB Games, overseas and over here in Australia and other various chains as well. But GameStop being the core sort of issue with this particular one. They've been in the press for all the wrong reasons over the last week or so due to their lack of response to the coronavirus. So a lot of their in-store practices sort of continuing with regards to people coming in and handling stock without having sort of their hands cleaned, unavailability of sanitizer in their retail locations despite the fact they promised it to staff, remaining open for extended hours in busy areas even though that's against the health advice of various different sort of states and health officials. But one of the sort of biggest problems is that they've taken a number of actions throughout the course of the week which have pretty actively demonstrated that they give a lot more of a shit about their bottom line than they do people's safety, which is a bad thing. They've kind of, in my opinion, they've been a bit tricky with how they've done it too. One example being that they obviously had like a big sort of finish line when it came to like the current quarter of sales with the release of Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing happening last week. And for the retail stores to not be open during that Friday would have been like a devastating loss of income to them in terms of what they could be potentially making with a couple of the biggest releases of the year in that space of time. So they took the decision upon themselves, and I'm not certain whether they actually got approval from Bethesda to do this or not. I suspect no. They actually they broke release date for Doom Eternal and started selling physical copies of Doom Eternal on the Thursday instead of the Friday to space out the amount of people that were coming in to purchase their products. Now, on the surface, that might seem like a consumer-friendly move, but when you think about the fact that it is entirely there to generate additional sales so that people don't have to wait to do it on the second day and miss out altogether if they're forced to close, it's a pretty scummy way to go about things. And there's been examples of them sending communications to their stores, deliberately sort of instructing their staff to ignore police orders to close their doors if it comes down to it, and giving them sort of legal information so they can put forward a case for them being essential services due to the fact that they carried IT stock like web cameras and microphones and that sort of stuff that's used for video conferencing when people are going to be self-isolating. So the whole thing stinks to high hell, and it really, I think, again, shown that organization to be like the scum-sucking, money lords that, a lot of people can consider them to be. This is a really good example of when it matters, they're not doing the right thing and keeping their customers safe. So, yeah. It's bad, but I mean, as of our recording tonight, I believe that the instruction has now come for them to close all their stores down. Some of them might still be doing sort of door pickups with regards to people coming in, grabbing existing orders from the front door and moving on straight away. But there's other companies out there that have got similar sort of problems that are taking steps too. I actually got a email from Games Workshop the other day. So their Warhammer stores worldwide, obviously because they're environments that are very community driven, and they're tabletop miniature war games where people are going to be handling figures, and there's a lot of transmissible sort of touch to things that they're going to be interacting with where it's high risk. Yeah, exactly. They've done the right thing, and they've just like blanket globally they've shut all their stores. So they didn't wait for individual countries to make up their mind. They've just said every single one of our stores is shutting their doors as of.
It's the right move.
And luckily for them, they've been setting up an online shopping network for years, so they're ready. They're primed to just switch, and people will easily swap to an online purchasing method anyway.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Do you think when the orders were coming down to stay open at GameStop that Reggie was going around to each store and saying your body is ready?
No, look, I think that Reggie's probably copped a lot of flack this week, despite the fact that he's just literally joined the board.
Yeah, so he chose a hell of a time.
He chose a hell of a time, and obviously, you know, his ability to actually play any sort of meaningful, significant role when it comes to decision making at this point, I think is moot. Like he's ultimately by position responsible for what's going on to a degree, but in terms of his ability to actually come on and make change quickly in this kind of environment, I don't think people can rightly hold him accountable. So
their board will have at least like half a dozen to a dozen members on it, and he's a single vote.
Exactly.
Like he whether or not he has any sort of impact in this sort of situation, like the rest of the board could basically say, hell no, we're staying open, and he could be the one person there saying, no, let's not. We don't know. Well, we just don't know. But yeah.
But what a time to saddle up on a rotten horse like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be hard to kind of save it from this situation, I think. So
yeah, well, I think that you know, not that I wasn't heading in that direction already, but and this is obviously you know, a pretty meaty discussion that we probably dedicate a segment to in the future. Is this going to be like the big catalyst that really pushes the nail in the coffin for the death of games retail? I think there's a lot of argument for that being the case, or at least changing the landscape considerably. So yeah,
that's definitely a topic for discussion, probably very soon.
Yep. All right. Well,
let the past die.
Yeah.
Kill it. Yeah.
Kill it if you have to.
I like that. So.
I like aspects of that. Yeah. Matt, what do you got for us tonight? What's going on?
So the developers of Plague Inc. are working on a version of the game in which you don't infect the world with a virus, you actually cure the world of a virus. It's actually really cool because so they are working with the World Health Organization to actually get expert opinion on like how this should be done, essentially, because the data from the game has actually been helping the WHO with dealing with coronavirus and like their response and how you should kind of like potentially close down borders and that sort of thing to kind of to stimulate it essentially and stimulate the spread. So now they're going in there, and it's partially because of fan demand, but obviously also because like having their game out on the market, which is all about, hey, yeah, doom the world with a pandemic, is probably in bad taste. So kind of going in the opposite direction is really cool. From what I saw, they haven't actually put a date on that thing yet when it's going to come out. But yeah, really, really neat. I didn't realize until I was reading this article that apparently they've donated $250,000 to the World Health Organization and other organizations that are fighting coronavirus.
Who?
So the World Health Organization I
mean who? Yeah.
God, fuck you, Luke. I'm just gonna disconnect right now.
It's not worth it, man.
It's really not.
In these pressing, stressful times, the last thing we need
we have to deal with this dickhead.
I know. We can't leave our house. I can't cough in anyone's mouth. Can't you at least give me a respite?
I can't not turn up to the podcast without releasing that fucking blackmail.
Oh God. Matt and I can't make out anymore in public. It's just, you know.
That's everybody's loss. Truly everybody's loss. Yeah. I was going to say, Matt, do you think that like spinning the game in this direction will actually allow them to get it back on sale in China?
No, I don't think so. I think the damage is done there. Like that ship set sail, and then landed in Australia, and everybody got left off. So. No, I think that's going to be very to make a case to actually get back into China. Like it's potentially one of those things that maybe once the dust settles, then it might get back in there. But I don't think that they're doing the sign of good faith to try and get back in the good graces of China. I think it's much more a situation of like, you know, this is fan demand, and also we need something good. We need to give people the capacity. Like we can see how this thing spreads. We can play that game to see how it spreads. but let's also see a way in which we can fight it, right? Yeah. If they release that tomorrow, imagine that as a teaching tool to actually show people this is the impact that social distancing would have to actually stop it, right? Like that would be massively beneficial.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of funny. Yeah. It's the direct opposite to the way that the board game Pandemic went, because the original Pandemic games and almost every single one of those different variants have been about stopping like a pandemic sort of infection spread. But they actually did one like a few years back, which was called Pandemic Contagion, I believe, which was flipping it over the other way, where you're actually trying to be the virus. So yeah, I guess they got the order wrong to actually have public opinion be this way.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, that's basically it. It's just one of those cool things that game developers are kind of doing. There was only one other little tiny bit of news item that I was going to potentially cover, and that's the fact that Sony announced that in Australia they're actually slowing down download speeds in the PlayStation 4, which I'm pretty sure at this point means that download speeds are now 0 on PlayStation 4 in Australia. So
feels bad, man.
It's already so slow.
Why couldn't they do it the other way? Why couldn't they actually like shape everybody else around the world to put them on the same even footing as us for once in their fucking lives? Seems like this would be the great opportunity to do.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, exactly. Drag everybody down to our level.
Exactly. Let's fucking go.
Yeah, that's it. Kill me now with that ping, you bitch.
I remember hearing in one of my lectures that tall poppy syndrome is a very Australian phenomena, and that was proved true just in the last statement from Luke.
Yeah, it was.
What's the it's called like crab theory? Crab mind. Crab brain. The idea that like crabs escaping a bucket.
Yeah, bucket crabbing.
Bucket crabbing. They just pull each other back into the bucket. No. Like crabs try to get out of a bucket, but they never can because other crabs like pull them back into the bucket.
Out. Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, just.
No, it's totally
crab brain. Crab brain.
I just think it's a hilarious segue coming from you in particular, Adrian, talking about crabs, in that way. But sure, it actually totally works.
It's like soccer theory, but with crabs.
Yes, exactly.
Soccer crabs. Finally.
That's it.
Yep.
Oh man.
So in other news, there's a new Overwatch hero, and nobody cares. That's it. That's my news item. No, there has been a new Overwatch hero revealed / announced. We all kind of knew it was coming because there was a while ago again another nice Blizzard cinematic involving McCree and one of the second most recent hero. Oh no, is she?
Ash.
Ash.
Yeah.
And it involved McCree recovering this new character out of a pod, and it turned out to be a robot lady named Echo. And so Echo is the new character. She is 100% Eve from WALL-E. So if you've seen WALL-E, you've seen this new character. She's even got the same coloration, and she looks like a flying Apple product. So
she does. She 100% does.
You're totally right.
Yeah. So there's a bit of footage on the screen now. So her blue face is holographic. So it's like an animated face. The story, for anyone that cares, is that she was created by a scientist who actually worked on Omnics. So originally, the scientist who created Echo was involved in creating a lot of the Omnic sort of AI systems. She then joined Overwatch to help combat those systems. She said that she would never create an AI again, and then she lied and she made Echo. And Echo was like a blank slate and learnt from her creator. So the Echo herself has a lot of personality traits that her creator did, which is part of the theme of sort of mirroring and echoing a person, which is probably where she gets the name. So as you can see on the screen there, she's got a few different abilities. She's got the one you're seeing at the moment is her secondary ability, where she throws out some blobs. It's just blob shot is what I'm calling it. So she throws blobs, they stick to bad guys, and then they explode, is her alt fire. Her main ability is she with her hand like this, she goes pew pew, and she shoots three lasers. Pew pew. The lasers don't hit scan, so they have a travel distance. It's kind of similar to Genji's throwing stars. So pew pew.
Literal finger guns though.
That's cool. Right, yeah. She only does it with one hand though, but yeah, it's kind of finger gunning. So she does that, the blobs. Her third attack is she goes like this in front of her and like a beam shoots out. So it's like a timed beam. It does more damage if you're under half health, so it's good at melting tanks. And then her mobility abilities, she's got basically a Farah jetpack move where she shoots up into the air and then can float back down. And there's like an initial boost of speed that comes with it. So that's pretty much her ult. Her ultimate ability, I think people are heralding it as being like really cool. I think it's just really boring. What she does is she copies, like you point her at an enemy, hit the ult button, and you turn into that enemy, and your ult is their ult, plus I think it's 600% regeneration speed on the ult. So, for example, if I'm Echo, I can point myself at Tracer, hit the ult button, I turn into Tracer with all of Tracer's abilities, and my ult generates at like 600%. So you can actually get off 2 or 3 of Tracer's ults while pretending to be her, because the regeneration speed is so much higher.
You're basically you're Shang Tsunging it, is what you're doing.
Pretty much. And again, another reason why she's called Echo is because of that ability. But yeah, it's fine. But the main reason I wanted to talk about it as a news topic is like when I first saw it, I was like, "Oh, cool, a new Overwatch hero. I could give Overwatch another go." Jumped into the public test server. As soon as I started playing Echo, I was like, "Oh, that's right. It's just Overwatch. It's just more Overwatch with a slightly different." It's almost like, "Oh, that's right. It's the same game." I don't know why I expected it to be fun again, because it's not really, and it's just Echo. Like, her abilities are fine, but they're nothing. It's what I'm trying to say is that it speaks more to the fact that like this kind of system of releasing characters as content, it's great if you're in the game and you're loving the game and you're on board and you've always been on board. But for those people that kind of have left the game, it's not quite the draw to bring people back in that I thought it would be. It's more along the lines of, like, initially it gets you interested, but then when you start playing it, you realize that you've kind of broken up with Overwatch and you don't really want to go back into a relationship with it. So
we're obviously not representative of the people who are actively playing, but I think we're all kind of similar in the way that we all, to a greater or lesser extent, recognise that Overwatch is still a fantastic game, but we've all burned out hard on it. So yeah.
I think that Echo is actually kind of poetic in a lot of ways, that Overwatch is so drained of any sort of creativity now that the new character they add just copies everybody else's ult.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. And like when I looked at the character, like the character is just so uninspired when I look at it.
Have you seen the other designs? The concept
for
Echo?
For Echo, no.
The other designs are fucking great.
Yeah,
they chose the least interesting one for her character design. It is super unfortunate because all the other ones were like really robotic with these like holographic visor faceplate type things that weren't like human shaped. They looked really, really cool. But they didn't go with that. They just kind of went with holographic woman face.
Is it possible that they will bank the other designs to release as skins later?
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay.
Yeah, no, they deviate too much from her current design, I think.
Look, I am interested. What it does bring to mind is that I think I read maybe that this is the last character before Overwatch 2.
It is.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, okay. So that's interesting to me. Like, I wonder what I'm more interested to see what Overwatch 2 is going to be like now that sort of this is the final nail in the coffin for, well, not nail in the coffin, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's the last bow on the present that is Overwatch. I'm curious to see what Overwatch 2 is like. I am kind of more on board to give it a go now. I know when I first saw the release footage for Overwatch 2, I was basically like, that looks crap. But I'm kind of more interested in seeing what it is like now. It may be interesting.
I got the impression that character-wise, Echo was a pretty important playing piece for what they want to set up narratively.
Yeah,
so
she is.
Yeah, that's interesting.
She has like a lot of history with Overwatch, as I understand.
Yeah. So. But anyway, that was my news. It was mostly another reason for me to be a sour bitch.
I mean, honestly, I think you have good reason to be a sour bitch in this.
No, thanks.
All right, well, let's get all that sourness out of the way. And you guys ready? Or should we jump into the big one? All right.
No, I'm not ready. No, right. Stop. No.
Anytime. No, screw you, we're doing
Ready.
it.
Okay, now.
All right. Our main topic for tonight, of course. So let's get into it. All right.
That's 100% Marnie.
I don't know. I actually don't know who Marnie is, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. It must be someone dressed an Animal Crossing person as her.
Would you put money on it?
I would 100%.
All right.
See, that was good, Luke. You should learn.
That was pretty good. I'll pay that. Yeah. All right. Suffice to say, fuck. Suffice to say, we've spent a ton of time playing these two games during the week, with the exception of Adrian and Animal Crossing. So, Doom, we've all played. So, I mean, do we want to start there, given all three of us have played Doom? Should we kick off with Doom Eternal first?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Adrian, well, give us your thoughts on Doom Eternal. So what were you going in expectation-wise, opening hours of the game, general impressions? How did you go?
So I was very excited to play Doom Eternal, and for those who have been following the podcast for the last couple of weeks, you may remember me mentioning that in the lead up to its release, I played Doom 2016 on Nightmare, played all the way through the game, 100% of it, got every collectible, and that got me quite jazzed for it. So I was pretty in the mood for Doom. So the night it released, it was something like 10:30 or 11 p.m. Thursday night or whatever that it was released. So I was ready and waiting, ready to go, very excited. It started off, unfortunately, a bit negatively because you can't play the game until you have a Bethesda account. So you have to sign in with a Bethesda account. That was a pain in the ass because it turns out I already had an account but didn't know what the login was, didn't know what the password was. So unfortunately, it was originally a little bit soured before I got into it.
That's right. So that wasn't the case with 2016, was it?
No, there was nothing like that. So, but once that was out of the way, straight into Doom Eternal. And I mean, it's awesome. To just get that out of the way. I mean, people were pretty confident going. I think everyone was pretty confident going in that it was going to be a great game.
Yeah,
it is. And the testament to that is the fact that I started playing it properly on the Friday, and by Sunday I'd finished it and clocked in 35 hours. So I'd played that entire amount of time over 2 days, which is a little bit worrying when you think about how many hours are in a day. But
so it's self-isolation hours. It's fine. It's a different kind of time.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah. But my expectations were, I did this thing where it's the same thing that I do for movies and other games. Christian puts it well. If I already know that I'm going to play something, then I don't consume a lot of the lead-up material like trailers and guides and sneak previews and interviews. I sort of forego all of that because I'm already going to play the game. I may as well experience it raw rather than having it spoiled in a way.
You say that, but your experience actually is going to differ from the two of us because you've literally just gone from 2016 into Eternal as well. So you'll be able to see the differences much more clearly than we will be able to, I think.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah. So like going into it, it's. I mean, where do I start? It's more ambitious, obviously, in its gameplay, and it pulls it off pretty much flawlessly. Like it's going for a more like, I don't like to use the word rhythmic because I remember Luke in the past referring to Doom as possibly being somewhat of a rhythm game. I think that is more prevalent in Eternal than in the original. And I certainly feel that compared to the original, well, I say original, compared to Doom 2016, it's way faster, it's way more frenetic, way more kinetic, and more cerebral. Like, which is, I did watch an interview recently from one of the designers talking about how they're always trying to make you think while you're playing Doom Eternal. Even when you're walking down a hallway, they want you to be thinking instead of just plodding along, running down an empty hallway. And it does succeed in that regard too. So maybe you want to prompt me, Luke, if I'm getting off topic. But
no, good.
It's really good. Graphically, it's amazing. I found it on my computer. It ran flawlessly. I remember when I first booted it up, I was trying to work out how to get the frame rate up, and it was running at like 188 frames pretty healthily.
I was getting 120 consistently.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And like I'm playing on like 144 hertz HD monitor at 188 frames. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is exactly what I wanted. Like, this is beautiful. And like that was delicious. And then once I started getting into the gameplay, I was like, oh, this is awesome, because it's so smooth and doesn't break a beat. So gameplay wise, I'll start off with the things that I didn't like, because they stand out first in my mind. The first one is that most of the guns are the same as Doom 2016. So, in fact, almost all the guns are exactly the same. The only difference is when you unlock mods for the guns, each gun has 2 alternate firing modes, which again do change it up a bit, but I thought they were still too similar to Doom 2016. So all the guns are pretty much the same. Shotgun is the same. It even one of the alt firing modes is the same, where it shoots the grenade. The burst rifle is pretty much the same as the
plasma white rifle. Yeah.
No, the heavy cannon. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
with the scope on it, pretty much the same. Granted, it fulfills a much important role in Doom Eternal, because enemies have weak points in Eternal, which they didn't have in Doom 2016. The plasma gun is the same. It has 1 additional firing mode, but is the same. The rocket launcher is the same. Both alternate firing modes are the same. The super shotgun is different because it's got the grappling hook, which is the best thing about Doom Eternal. The arbalest, no, what's it called?
Arbalest is right. Yep.
Arbalest. That's exactly the same as the railgun from 2016. The only difference is it has like a different firing mode, and the minigun is exactly the same. So, and the BFG. So all of these guns are exactly the same as Doom 2016. I would have liked totally different guns. So guns that did something completely different. But I also acknowledge that part of the gameplay of Doom Eternal is weapon swapping. The whole idea is that you're not meant to have one gun and just use it all the time.
Yeah.
You're meant to constantly be changing weapons to deal with the appropriate threats. And in that regard, it pulls it off perfectly. Like the guns fulfill each of their roles perfectly. But I would have liked something totally different. Like I would have liked some guns to be completely different and exciting and new.
It's funny you say that, because for that reason, like with regards to the new method of weapon swapping to have to deal with all of the threats in the game, that is precisely the reason why I'm really glad they didn't change all of them.
Yeah, I can understand that point of view, but they could have put in a totally new gun and still achieve that. So I don't think
potentially. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you played through Doom the way that I did, but I very rarely switched off the super shotgun. Like if you had that and you had ammo, you could just murder the shit out of everything.
Yeah, the super shotgun is it is basically the best gun in the game, especially once you fully upgrade it. One thing I really like about Doom Eternal, probably the best thing about it, is the way they reworked the chainsaw. So in Doom 2016, the chainsaw was kind of like a super weapon where like the ammo was limited in the game, so enemies wouldn't drop the chainsaw ammo. You had to find it in the levels, and it would instantly kill an enemy and give you like a bunch of ammo and health.
Yeah.
In Doom 2016, it does the same thing, but it's on a recharge. So it's more like an ability that slowly recharges. And what it's used as instead is that through the flow of combat, generally in Doom Eternal, the way it works is you enter. When you're not exploring and walking down passageways and doing puzzle solving, you enter an arena-style zone with lots of verticality to it, and then waves of enemies will spawn in and you fight those enemies for a period of time. The chainsaw is used pretty much exclusively as an ammo replenishing tool, because you're dishing out so much punishment with your weapons, there's not enough ammo lying around in the environment to keep you supplied. So what you have to do is find the weakest enemies that constantly spawn in, use the chainsaw on them to get ammo back. Yeah. So it's almost like in the rhythm of the combat, oh shit, I'm running out of ammo. Where's a zombie? There he is, chainsaw.
Where's a demon pinata?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that mechanic is really great. And I love that about the chainsaw. I think that's one of the best moves.
The new Crucible blade is basically the old chainsaw.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're exactly right. I won't go on too much more about it because I'm kind of waffling, but just two last points I want to make. The Unmaker is shit and was absolutely not worth the time and effort it took to unlock it. Although effort is maybe not the right word because it was still fun to earn it, but was absolutely not worth. That does not reflect the amount of effort you put in to obtain it. And the blade, the Doomslayer blade, you get it way too late in the game. I think that should have come earlier, and you should have been able to use it from earlier on. Granted, yeah, that's all. I'll leave it there because I'll just chime in when you guys talk about it too, because otherwise I can't correctly collate my thoughts. But in summary, it's fantastic. And that's represented by the fact that I played it on the second hardest difficulty, got every collectible in the game, and I'm currently playing it all the way through again. So I'm already over halfway in my second playthrough. So that's a testament to how good it is. So just a few minor gripes, but it's great.
Mm-hmm. Matt, what did you think? Because you're not quite as far through as we are. Have you finished the first sort of arc of the story yet? Would you say? Okay, cool.
So I'm still on the cultist mission at the moment. So I haven't actually finished that yet.
It's like the third level.
It's like the third level, yeah. So I'm going to upset people.
I like
this. So Luke goes for his.
I'm sourcing up.
So I'm going to preface this by saying disliking something isn't the same as thinking something's bad. Okay? I dislike Doom Eternal. And it kind of made me realize, because I found myself disliking it in the same way that I disliked Doom 2016. And it made me actually kind of sit back and go, what is it about this game that I'm not enjoying? And so, like, when I say not enjoying it, like, I haven't had a moment yet where it clicks with me. And I'm 4 hours into the game and it feels like, nothing's really changing. So am I going to get that moment where it clicks for me? And so what's kind of happened is, like, whenever I play it, I kind of, like, put it down after an hour and then sit back and go, what is it that is not kind of working for me here? And I kind of realized that one of the things that I really enjoy about games that I'm kind of finding lacking in Doom Eternal is that there's not any really meaningful self-expression in the game, which sounds like a really nerdy fucking gamey thing to say. But, like, it's basically, you have these enemies, they're weak to these weapons, and the gameplay is about, like, using the right weapon to deal with the enemies, rather than a game like, say, Halo, where it's like, you have all these tools, you have all these enemies, figure out how to kind of deal with that situation. And so, like, it's Doom's almost like a puzzle game in a lot of ways. In that, like, you have this situation kind of laid out before you. You have this kind of collection of demons. The demons change, and the number of them and the types of demons you kind of deal with changes. But the tools you have available does not, and the ways in which you solve those problems do not. It's just how you swap your weapons around and everything like that. Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying, and I understand what you mean. Like, I can see the difference between something like other first-person shooters and this kind of, like, rather than it being like a game about exploration and using your tool set to accomplish goals, they give you, like, here's a bunch of weapons, here's a room with a bunch of demons, fuck them up, and that's it.
Yeah. And that's, like, it's almost like they've kind of taken out your self-expression, because Doom has one expression, and that is rip and tear, right? Yeah, and I feel like
that's two expressions. Let's be fair.
Like, it is one expression. Like, I feel like I will enjoy that when I'm in the right mood for it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's where I'm kind of like at this point right now, where I keep on beating my head against it. And so, like, I have over the last 3 game sessions, I think this is the other problem I have with it. The last 3 game sessions, I have sat down, I've played for like 30 to 45 minutes, and I've gone, okay, like, this level has to end at some point, right? And I get like 30 to 45 minutes in, it's like, oh my god, I'm still here, and I just get frustrated. So I have to kind of like exit the game for a little bit, sit down and play some Animal Crossing, and then come back and try again. And so the last time I had played Doom, it was I shouldn't say attempt, because I am still in the level and I'm progressing, but it's just like I've been on that cultist level for like an hour and a half. And I got into this like gigantic chamber, and I'm like, oh, thank God, boss fight. And it's like, nope, it's not a boss fight. There's actually like a jumping puzzle around the outside. And it's like, and that's the point where I exited again. So like, I don't really think I can say I dislike it. I'm not enjoying myself at the moment. Like, it feels like I haven't had that moment where it clicks with me. One of the key things I think that is responsible for that, I have no fucking clue what's going on narratively. I'm 4 hours into the game, and it's like, what the fuck is happening?
It's a
right?
Yeah,
like you end Doom 2016 at a certain point, but it's very clear when you start this off. There's been a time jump and a bunch of shit has happened. And now it's like, go deal with these fucking cultist dudes. And it's like, okay, I guess I'll go do that. And now I'm on level 3, and I'm still like, I'm just dealing with cultist dudes. Tell me what the fuck's going on, right? Yeah. And I'm sure there will be that point in time with the narrative where it'll be like, this is what's going on. And then I'll be like, oh, fuck, I give a shit now. I don't give a shit right now.
I can tell you it will never get to that point. They're like... You may disagree with this, Luke, but having played through it, and I've read, because I've completed it 100% and got every collectible, I've read every journal entry. The story is not Doom's strong point, and it's like I can't remember what I was talking about like recently on the podcast, but it's that whole thing where the story is written, again, it's part of being an interpreter and working in sign language where sign language is a very direct language. When you read a lot of the journal entries for Doom, they're over wordy and they don't have a lot of substance to them. They're written to sound biblical, but what they actually are is devoid of any meaning a lot of the time.
One of the challenges, I think, with that is that they're written from different perspectives. So you actually read those entries, and some of them are written from the perspective of translating them from ancient tablets, and some of them are written from the perspective of Vega, who's like your AI that you work with. And so there's a bit of a disconnect there.
Yes, yeah. but the main what Matt is chasing, the context that the game exists in, is purely in one type of those journal entries, which is called like History of the Sentinels. There's like something like 20 entries of that story. And unless you're tracking down the journal entries and reading them and working it out, like, unless you have that information, the game will continue to not make any sense.
Yeah.
Because the whole time you're playing it, you're like, wait, who are the Sentinels? What's Danur? What's Argent? Oh, so that's created this, and then that person is using it to make this. It's all over the place. The plot's like ridiculous, and not in a good way.
like the original Doom 2016, it didn't have a strong plot, but it always felt like there was a reason why you were in the location you were in.
Yeah.
Whereas this feels like, okay, so you're going to go deal with this cultist, but on the way, for some reason, your super shotgun's there, so we better get that. And it's like, it feels like it's just distractions. It's really strange. Like the narrative of it, like, it feels like digging into Doom's narrative feels like the opposite thing I should be doing, but the lack of context throws me off so much that it's like I suddenly care. Like it feels like Destiny 1. It feels like, why the fuck is this thing?
Oh, actually, that's a really good comparison, actually. Yeah.
Right? And it feels like I'm lacking that context. I'm lacking any sort of meaningful reason to give a shit. And like Destiny 1 was awful at communicating that. And I think that Doom is awful in the same way, especially since you just said that to understand the story, I have to read a whole bunch of fucking text logs.
Data logs, yeah.
Yeah, like that's exactly what Destiny did.
Yeah. And it's not consistent. Having just played Doom 2016, even little things like the fact that the ending of Doom 2016 is Samuel Hayden, like the robot man. He takes the crucible from you, and as the game ends, he goes zoom, and it turns into a sword. And then in Doom Eternal, you have the crucible, but the crucible never becomes your sword. You create the sword using a totally different set of items. That kind of disconnect is kind of emblematic of the game. Like it's all over the place when it comes to like trying to trying to tell you what's going on. It's like nothing really lines up really well, I find.
Yeah.
It could be argued that that's not what Doom Eternal is for, but I'm sure there's just as many other people that would argue.
Yeah.
There still needs to be needs to be clear. I mean, look, if you look at Doom Eternal, this is the plot. Spoilers for anyone. These are the spoilers, and I'll try not to be too specific for you, Matt. Here it is. Earth is invaded. There's 3 priests that are like the bad guys. Hunt down and kill the 3 priests. That takes up 75% of the game. The priests were working for a big bad guy. Go kill that big bad guy. The big bad guy summoned another big bad guy. Go kill that big bad guy. End of Doom. That is essentially the plot.
Yeah.
Any other kind of world building occurs in those logs, and it's not effective. That's all it is, really. And any other plot that occurs in between isn't plot, but tasks to move between those points.
Yeah.
So it's like start of the game, priest 1, priest 2, priest 3, end boss, second end boss. That's all it is.
Yeah. And
that's fine if that's all you're there for.
If you're, I think, like you say, right? Like, is Doom Eternal really there for the narrative? Because I wasn't expecting to be there for the narrative, right? But I was still expecting the narrative to at least give me a reason to be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it feels like when I started the game off, I actually like paused it after the first level, and I'm like, was there an extended ending in like the hardest difficulty of Doom 2016 that I'm missing?
Yeah,
that's
I get that.
Like filling in the gap, right?
Yeah, I totally understand that perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I went and looked online. It's like, okay, there's not. So something's just wrong here.
They do 100% fill that gap. It just takes a while to get to it. Yeah.
Yeah. But like that feels like I'm chasing the reason then, right? When I should kind of just have the reason why I should care. Like, again, like this is a really nitpicky thing. 'Cause like I say, I didn't expect Doom Eternal to give me a deep narrative experience. I expected Doom Eternal to give me really fucking fun, goring demons. But I got so distracted by the narrative that it kind of took away from it, I think.
I think what's important, and linking it back while we're on this topic of narrative, I think one of the main things that makes it so obscure, and I think this might be why you're having trouble with it, Matt, is that the things in the game, a lot of it is to do with like naming conventions. Like Doom Eternal has a problem with naming things, is one of the biggest issues it has with its plot and with those text logs. So it will, and here's the big example, even after playing through the game completely once, reading everything, and now playing it again, it's still unclear to me whether humans and the Doomslayer, whether the Doomslayer is human, and if the Sentinels that are in the game are also human or not, because the game doesn't make it clear, and it's not obfuscating in the way that's good, because they try to tell you through those text logs who the Sentinels are, who the bad guy is, who the priests are, who the demons are. But even after reading it all, it's still unclear. It still doesn't make sense.
I will say, in particular, there's one moment early on that does a real disservice in that respect as well, where you actually run into one of the other Sentinels who's been out in the front lines fighting the demons. And that point is really fucking confusing.
It's like, who the fuck is that guy? Yeah,
because he says something like, they're not your people anymore, and it's like, okay, so Doomslayer's human. He talks about like when my people went through that, and it sounds like, okay, so your people aren't human.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's part of the problem. And if you read all the text logs, again, spoilers, but what it basically is like there's a planet called Argent Dunur, which is like a planet of these like warrior caste, like barbarian kind of people that like it's a classic trope of like the warrior people who have like a warrior king.
Yeah, it's almost like a Valhalla kind of situation.
Basically, it's kind of like a Valhalla thing. And they're all noble and true, and they have a king and blah blah blah. But also, it's in the future, so they also fly through space, which is confusing. And then one day, the Doomslayer rocks up on their planet unannounced, and he's all like feral and fights the demons, so they adopt him.
The inference is that he's come out of the original Doom games into this new sort of timeline.
But then it's left. But then you're constantly questioning. It's like, okay, so is this culture? Are they human? Are they not human? And it's never made clear. And then it's like, is the Doomslayer human? And you don't find out. Anyway, it's confusing. We're going in circles. But the point is that it's not clear, and it's not fun trying to work it out, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the gameplay is good. I like the game.
Yeah, 100%. Ripping and tearing is great, right?
Yeah.
Like, the game nails ripping and tearing. It's just that I found the ripping and tearing samey, I guess, is where I'm kind of at with it. Like, there's only so much ripping and tearing I can take in a single gameplay session.
And linking back to your point about comparing it to a different game, you're 100% right. And I found this as I got toward the end of the game. There's a section in the game where you go to a place that is totally different to any other place you've been. I won't spoil this because it is quite cool. As I was in that place, playing through it, I remember thinking, I'm getting a bit bored, actually, because although everything is very visually interesting, it's starting to feel a bit cut and paste. Like, the hallways are starting to feel the same, and the gameplay loop hasn't changed from the very first mission. Like, the gameplay loop is exactly the same as it's been from mission 1 all the way through. You get more weapons and you get more options, but the gameplay doesn't change. So that, in a way, might be indicative of what you're talking about, Matt, where it doesn't. It challenges you on the second to second level, but it doesn't present any great sort of challenges over the course of the game. It doesn't ask you to do anything different once you've at any point. You never have to do anything different, like you say, apart from ripping and tearing. It's got one mode and that's it, which is great. Like you say, if that's what you're in the mood for. If you're not, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
But I think Luke should talk about it. I
was about to say, like, Luke, because like I feel like we're being downers. It's not bad.
I think that what you're talking about, like, I'm actually going to agree with a lot of what you've said in different ways. There's things that I don't agree with, but I think you've made some really, really solid points for the most part, particularly about the narrative. But the way I want to kind of approach it with my thoughts is kind of comparing it to 2016 in a large respect, because I think that there's a lot of similarities, but I think that what people who will come out of Doom into this and realize very quickly is that it is actually in a lot of ways a very different game. And Doom 2016, just to sort of draw back to this, currently sits at number 9 on my top 10 of all time. So I fucking love the game. Like, I'm definitely coming at this from the perspective of someone who loves these games. Now, I haven't settled on a final spot yet, but I think that Eternal's actually going to be higher for me. And it's a lot. There is some more of the same, but there is some things that it does better than 2016. But as a result, I'm not actually going to remove 2016 from the list because I think it's actually different enough that I think that both of these games will exist in my top 10 for how much I enjoy them for different reasons. So I think Eternal's probably going to land at about number 7 for me currently, behind God of War. So, but anyway, the differences, and this is the stuff that I think is interesting. The biggest concern I had jumping into Eternal was how the platforming was going to land. Pardon the pun. So, because I had a very good idea of what this game was, obviously, because I played it at PAX last year. I've seen heaps of stuff on it. Like, I've been following it pretty intently. I've watched a lot of the designers' videos and that kind of stuff. The one thing I didn't really get a good feel for when I played it in the short space of time that I did on the show floor was how the progression was going to work and how the platforming was going to work in a broader sense. Like, I got a little bit of it, but not more than a taste. So I shouldn't have been worried about the platforming. I think that this is going to be a divided opinion out there because there's definitely people who don't like it, and I think that's entirely fair. Like, if you're coming in with the expectation that it's going to be more like 2016 in terms of the platforming, you're probably going to be disappointed. I think that there are some levels in 2016 where they do platforming badly, like particularly in the BFG division level where you actually have to ascend like this giant sort of chamber in the research division there. I think that's actually quite unfun. The way they do platforming in Eternal, I think, with the exception of the odd death due to bad grapple positions and occasionally things just, you hit the front of a ledge with your chin or something like that, I think the platforming is actually way better than I expected it was going to be. And I think that the best thing about it is the platforming mechanics that they use to traverse levels actually often appear in the combat arenas as well and are a really good mechanic to use to keep yourself more mobile when you're fighting the demons, like being able to grab onto sort of, bars that are sticking out and vault off those and, get airborne and up to different levels. I think that wouldn't actually work the same way without having those platforming mechanics in Eternal, which is really cool. And I think that to a certain extent, it actually does break up the fights quite nicely. And it feels a bit Metroidvania to me in the way that they do it. Like, I really enjoy that stuff in Metroidvania games. Like, that traversal mechanics, breaking up the fights is something that I quite like. But I appreciate that not everybody's going to be in that bucket. So...
for the record, I really liked it. I really enjoyed the platforming. I thought it was great.
The platforming and mobility, I think, is fucking fantastic.
A lot smoother than I expected too. Yeah.
Everything about Doom Eternal mechanically is amazingly good. It's where the player interactions between those mechanics comes in. I think it lacks variety, essentially, is what I kind of have the issue with.
So Matt, to sort of empathize with you a little bit, like when I was early on playing the game, I actually did have a concern initially that the levels were dragging on a bit and they were very, very long. And I think that's a valid criticism. And I was more worried about that early on than I became later, because I think that point that you haven't pushed past yet, where things kind of click with you. Like I was finding early on the levels were long and they were really fucking difficult because the game is a hell of a lot faster and a hell of a lot more dangerous than its predecessor. And so I was getting punished repeatedly, like even though I'm pretty decent at 2016, and I was getting a bit concerned about that, like in terms of how much. I mean, it wasn't really sapping the fun, but it was definitely throwing me right out of my comfort zone, and I kind of had to relearn a lot of stuff again for it to click. But once it did, holy shit, did it click! Like there's actually a stage that you're coming up to very shortly, Matt, which is the one where, without giving major spoilers, you actually encounter Samuel Hayden again. And that was the level which was the turning point for me. So as soon as I got to that level, that's where it has some of the best music of the game, and some of the most interesting sort of enemy arena fights in the game. And there's a really cool sort of encounter at the end of that level too, where one of the tougher enemies shows up for the first time, and he fucks you up. Like, he really fucks you up. And then you have to fight a lot of him from that point onwards, and you learn to not have him fuck you up as much, which is good. And then from that point onwards, I enjoyed the game a lot more, and the levels felt like they were a lot less long, because I think one thing that Eternal does that 2016 didn't is that the levels are long, but the environments often change throughout the level. So you often like start in one location and then you travel somewhere else or into a different area of that location that looks vastly different, and then the level continues. So it actually feels like multiple levels kind of bundled into one, and you do have save points throughout it as well, where like if you exit the game and come back in, it actually will start you off there instead of at the beginning of the level. So it's a bit kind of false in the way that it seems like it's a super long level, and it's not really in the same kind of way. So it cheats a little bit with regards to that. So I didn't mind it as much after that point. I thought it was actually fine.
I agree with that, but I think psychologically that's not good. Like,
yeah.
I agree with that. Because when you play, because we're used to digesting things in chunks, and when you make a chunk too long, it doesn't matter how much you divide it up or how many rests or how many opportunities you give the player to stop. You don't feel compelled to stop until you finish that chunk. So I think they are too long in that regard, and I agree with Matt. Well, with what I think Matt is trying to say in that regard.
Yeah, I love the level design. I think the level.
Oh yeah,
and the way it changes is great. But the last 3 times that I've played Doom Eternal, the objective has still been kill this cultist. And that's basically like 2 hours of gameplay now that I've been just in that one level. And so it doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere. It feels like I'm just kind of killing more demons.
I will say, going back and playing those levels again now, having finished the game, like you rip through them a lot faster the second time. Yeah.
It's worth noting as well, I didn't bring this up when I was talking about it earlier, but the game has quite a few bugs which pissed me off. And not because they're bugs that you can... It's not like an enemy getting stuck in the terrain. It's not that kind of bug. It's like interface bugs, which literally fuck up your progress. So it happened to me twice where... So like throughout the game, it eventually introduces this mechanic. It might already be in it where you're up to, Matt, where the game will keep track of the amount of enemies you've killed through the level. 2016 did do this as well, but it's actually represented by a meter in the top right corner of your screen in Doom Eternal, and it will tell you when you've completed every combat encounter in the level and rewards you with upgrade points accordingly. In that cultist level, the very first arena encounter, because they are marked on the map by like a circular radial symbol, it bugged out and it wouldn't count as completed. No matter where I looked, no matter where I went, all the enemies were gone, but the game just didn't count it as completed. Therefore, it wouldn't give me upgrade points. And when I finished the level, it kept telling me the level wasn't complete, 100%. And it meant I had to go back into the level and replay it over and over again to get it to tick over. And it's only through sheer force of number of tries I did it that eventually it worked. That was fine on that level because it's the first combat encounter. The levels are so incredibly long, though, that it happened again in a later mission where the very last encounter of the mission was the one that was bugged. And I had to play through the entire mission twice to get that encounter to tick over. Now, it doesn't matter if you're not a completionist and it doesn't matter to you, but it mattered to me. And it was a real pain in the ass because if you replay a level, if you play a level right through to the end, you then unlock fast travel and you can go back to any point in the level and redo it. If instead you leave the mission and go back into the mission, it doesn't unlock fast travel. It resets the mission as if you'd never played it, and you have to work through the whole thing again. So on that later mission where it got bugged, I had to play through that mission, and you know how long they are. It took me ages just to get it to reset, and that was a pain in the ass. So there was another bug as well, which was it was kind of funny, but also irritating until I worked out what the issue was. I went back into a level and activated the cheats to have a go at them and find out what they were like. There's a cheat that unlocks every mod for every gun. Played around with that. That was fine. Went back into the campaign, and when I was using the heavy rifle, when I changed to the scope mode, it had the little green lights that come on when the rockets pop out the side were always there. And when I hit the alt fire, it didn't zoom in, but it would still shoot the precision bolt, but without the zoom. So it was this weird, super buggy thing with the weapons. Tried restarting the game, restarting my computer, fiddling with the weapons. It turns out the way you had to do it was exit the mission, go back into a different mission, unload the cheats, go back out of the menu, reload the cheats, but not that cheat, go back into the first mission, swap the mods, go back, turn off the cheats, go back into the continue game, then your weapons are fixed. So it was only through sheer pushing every button available and elimination that I managed to work out how to solve it. But it was literally a game-breaking bug, though. If I hadn't found a solution, it would have literally broken the game because I couldn't swap my weapon.
Cheaters never prosper.
Well,
no.
To be clear, I only tried the cheats in a previous level that had already unlocked everything.
Cheats are totally fine. They're super fun. I mean, God mode is the original cheat. Am I right? Yeah. So, yeah. No, I haven't encountered either of those. They're weird. I can totally understand how that would be a pain in the ass. Look, I think without going into tons more detail, apart from saying I fucking love this game and almost everything about it, I'll say there's two main criticisms that I have. And one, I don't think is a fair comparison to 2016 because it's not something that existed in that game. One is. So my first criticism is that the Destroyer, which is the floating tank dude with
the Necron?
Yeah, he's got the chainsaw blade and the rocket launcher, and his top half of his body is shielded.
He's flat out Necron Destroyer.
Yeah, he is the one enemy that I think is badly designed. And the reason why I think that is because there's really only one weapon that you could use against him for half of the fight to de-shield him, which is the plasma rifle. And then after that, you can use whatever you want. I don't like that in the respect that it railroads you into using only one gun type against him for that first part. I think that's bad design.
I agree. And there's also another problem with that enemy is that whenever you encounter a new enemy in Doom Eternal, it gives you a little tutorial on how to disable that enemy using its weak points. And it says that Doom Hunter, it's called, with the Doom Hunter, its top half is shielded with an energy shield. Its bottom half is the sled, the hover sled.
Yeah.
It says that you can shoot the hover sled to disable it, or you can shoot the shielded part of its body. But shooting the shielded part of its body is redundant if you can just shoot the sled anyway.
Yeah, I don't think you can shoot the sled until you've unshielded it. I'm pretty sure.
No, but you can. You can destroy the sled without ever taking out its shield.
Okay.
And then it pops off from the sled anyway. So there's no point in shooting the shield. But kind of tricks you into doing that. Yeah. It's a weird.
I think with every other enemy in the game, like you've got multiple ways you can approach it, but yeah, for that reason, like there's only that one weapon that's useful against the core part of that Doom Hunter, which I think is just bad. Yeah. Like they should have made it that yes, this is a good way to approach its weak point, but you can still kill it with any of these other things. And I think that the amount of ammo you would have to expend with any other weapon to even make a dent just makes it not worth it. So I think a lot of people have been complaining about the Marauder, which is the super agile dude that has the wolf and the shotgun and throws axes at you, and you can only attack him when his eyes flash green at you and he does like a particular move. Even that I think is way better designed because you can use any weapon you like, you just have to get the timing down. So there's a particular attack animation that can be really tough to come to terms with until you sort of get used to it, and it means that initially he's really punishing and freaking hard to deal with because you almost have to kill everything else in the room first so you can focus on him one to one. But later, as you get better at dealing with him, that's not the case. Like you can take him on with a horde of dudes around, you just get the timing right, you can use any weapon you like. There's a couple of combos which I've picked up which make it a lot quicker to eliminate him, but he's really tough. But I don't think he's as badly designed as the Doom Hunter. I just think the Doom Hunter has that problem. So yeah. But the second thing that I think is a criticism of the game, and this is the one that compared to 2016 I think stands out a lot and leaves me completely agreeing with both of you in terms of the narrative. I think that the narrative for Doom Eternal I actually love. I think it's very, very cool, but it's delivered really fucking badly. So, and that's where I'll completely agree with you that the direction that they took in terms of how they deliver it to you and how confused you are in the early part of the game, not knowing what the fuck is going on, is a huge failing with Doom Eternal. I think that like understanding your place in this sort of Doomiverse and sort of, you know, the agent that you are and what part you're playing and the bigger story that's going on, you feel disconnected from it up until about halfway through the game. Like a little over halfway through the game. And then you get a level that gives you a huge lore dump. You get heaps of information about what's going on. A lot of it's delivered in the form of sort of codex entries that you actually have to tab into to read the full extent of instead of having it sort of delivered narratively to you. Like, I understand that they wanted to cut down on, like, the amount of cutscenes that there were. I mean, not that there was a heap in 2016. There really wasn't.
It really wasn't.
Yeah. But... like, they've kind of gone, like, nothing more than a minute worth of cutscene, which I think is fine. Like, most of them are way shorter than that. But the information they chose to deliver is only part of the picture. And I love that they built out this universe. And the universe, once you actually understand what's going on, all the sort of characters and the different ages at play, are really cool. Like, I like it a lot. Like, I think it's a really cool background story and lore that they've written. But you just don't understand it unless you take the time to read it. And it's delivered so badly. So, yeah.
I agree. And I also think it's actually not good. Like, personally, I don't like them.
I think it's a very subjective thing in terms of whether you like it or not.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think it reeks of retcon to me. Like, it reeks of a retcon narrative. Like, where
I don't think it retcons 2016. I think it retcons part of the original games.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I think for me, it's like, okay, Doom is a product of the 90s where, you know, it's metal and it's about hell and demons and, like, biblical shit, like blood and, you know, pentagrams and skulls on stakes. And I think they've tried to, like, have their cake and eat it too, where they still want to do all that, but then they want to over-explain why the demons and that they're not, you know, they're demons, but they're not biblical demons. They're not God demons. They're a different kind of demons. They're doom demons, and the angels aren't really angels. They're this instead, and this isn't really this. It's actually this, and it's just too, like, convoluted for the sake of trying to kind of cover up the fact that it was originally like a religious. Like it was religious iconography. I think for me, that's what it feels like.
I don't entirely agree. Like, I think they've taken the safe angle that they have. Like, it's similar to the Legend of Thor, for instance, like in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, they're like, you know, the Asgardians are treated as gods by other beings because they're all powerful, but in reality, they're just aliens. So they've kind of, and a lot of, like, human lore and history is based on, like, encountering these kinds of beings or aspects of their culture and interpreting it in different ways that legend sort of builds, and it's like a huge game of Chinese whispers, you know, over centuries.
That would be fine, but that's not what they've done. They've added all this extra lore about the Sentinels, and it goes back to that thing about, like, who the fuck is human and who isn't. That's the problem, is that, like, they've over-explained it to the point of it being confusing, where you don't understand, Like some parts of it you do understand. Like the part that you've explained about, okay, the heaven and hell thing, all right, I understand why humans thought this was heaven and humans thought this was hell, but really it's something different. That's fine. It's everything in between those two things that's overdone. So like who the humans are, what the humans are doing, what's Argent energy, how is it being used, how is it being created? Oh, this is how it's created. Who's using it? What do they call it? It's called something different. No, it's called this. Like,
this is a totally subjective thing though, because I love all that shit. Like, I think it's awesome. Yeah. But that's all right. Like, at the end of the day, love the game. That's a big complaint I have compared to 2016, because I think 2016 was just really elegant in the way that it had a simple story delivery. It knew what it did. It did it really well. It didn't overcomplicate things. It just did that one thing really fucking well. So
I agree. And Doom 16 is not only slower, physically slower, the plot and the atmosphere is slower, and I think it's better for it.
Builds up more deliberately.
There's one last thing that I didn't like. One little thing. There's a level called the Super Gore Nest later on, and Matt may have seen some of this already, but there's areas of the game that are like infested by hell, and it's basically like what's it called? The Cronenberg. It's like Cronenberg-y shit everywhere, but none of it moves. It's all like frozen, like flesh, because they obviously didn't have the time, resources, engine, or whatever to animate everything. Some of it is like, so you'll have this flesh mountain in front of you, but it's completely static, and I think that was crap. Like when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, that's disgusting, and then you walk up close to it, and it's like, oh, it's not moving. It's just like frozen. Like there's eyeballs, but they're not moving. There's teeth, but they're not moving. There's like entrails, but they're not pulsing. Not all the time. So, like, I feel like that was like a missed opportunity. And I was like, it took me out.
There's a lot of highly detailed backgrounds in contrast to that, though. But I agree, they didn't nail it in every area, but they did a lot in other spots.
I agree. I agree. I understand you have to make sacrifices somewhere. You can't, have everything. But I was just a bit disappointed that when I walked up to that massive Cronenberg mountain, it wasn't
pulsating for you. It wasn't pulsating enough for you.
It's really unfortunate because, like, right at the start of the game, like, there's like a little bit of a mean for Doom, where there's a cage right at the start of the game filled with like these humans, but they're like one single human
texture
flesh jelly thing,
exactly,
and they're like wriggling around and writhing. It's fucking disgusting, but it's great.
If you like that, Matt, I have good news for you.
Yeah. All right, there is one last thing. There is something to be said for the way you revel in the hedonism of Doom Eternal.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Like, there is kind of this, like,
the music plays a big part in that, I think.
Yeah, like the music, the visuals, the gameplay. It's all about just like, here it is. Here's everything. Fucking go nuts. Like blood, guts, gore. The only thing like it eschews, which is fine, is any kind of sexual like content, but that's fine because it doesn't need that. But everything is just like, here's the guns, here's the bullets, here's the guts, here's the bad guys, here's the music, bam, bam, bam. And when you play it, you're just like frothing at the mouth. There is something to be said about just letting loose. There's not many games where you can do that, so it's good for that.
Totally. And my overall opinion of the soundtrack compared to the last game is I think that Doom Eternal's soundtrack overall is a big step up, but it doesn't have that one killer track attributed to it that the first game did, which is BFG Division.
Right.
However, they put BFG Division in Doom Eternal, so that's totally fine. They just use the exact same track, which I'm fine with because it's one of the best ones ever.
But
so
I'm not a metal dude. I don't care about heavy metal at all. Doom Eternal made me like feel like a rock star, where I was like, this is metal. Like there's skulls everywhere, and that dude's on fire, and there's like no, and like the fact that like the Doom Slayers like man cave has like guitars on the wall. I was like, this is cool. This is metal.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not into that, like it made me feel like I was part of the culture.
One thing we forgot to mention, which we probably should quickly, is battle mode, because we all played some multiplayer as well.
We did play battle mode.
The 2v1 multiplayer. So what did you guys feel about battle mode, sort of in brief?
It was fun, but it won't be fun for long.
No, I entirely agree.
It's my total review of battle mode. It was fun the one time we played it. It might be fun if we played a second time. Beyond that, it's going to be total shit and no one will play it.
It's the one part of Doom where I found variety. I'm not like that sounds like I'm being nasty, but quite genuinely, like I go in there and it's like I can play different demons and everything like that. Like try out things. Like, it changes the gameplay strategy, whereas Doomslayer has like one way that you play, right? And there's like, you know, you get all those really cool mobility options and everything like that. But battle mode I quite like, because it's like it's a change of pace from what the rest of Doom kind of gives you. So I actually kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I don't think I would enjoy it for long, though. So yeah, I'd agree with Adrian on that.
I really want to go back and play it now that I've finished the game, so I think I'll be better at it for a start. But I think I'd have a different appreciation for it now that
It's worth noting, there is this weird, one thing we haven't talked about, there is a weird games as a service kind of overlay to Doom Eternal that
like the
is
seasonal
like present in the
there's
like seasonal content, and like the push to subscribe to Bethesda's like Doomslayer Club, and like there's these things you can earn. This idea of earning content, it is present. Granted, it's only in the battle mode, but it's interesting that you can earn progress on that bar by playing the campaign, and it looks like they intend to throw more and more unlockable content in the form of skins. It's all cosmetic for the multiplayer mode.
They're putting in new master levels for the main game as well.
Yeah, so. I've played a few of those already, and that's fine. But all it is the same levels with different enemies or more enemies. That's all it is. So it's not that interesting. But there is this weird kind of like, it feels like a half-assed kind of attempt at like trying to stay current or trying to be modern. Like every other game has some sort of reward for keeping you engaged. We better do it too. Here's a like season pass style progress bar, and you can earn stuff. It's weird, like it's a bit odd, and the game does encourage like these achievements where it's like kill X number of enemies with this particular method.
I like that.
It's fine for the ones that are based on the mission where you get an in-game, where you get like a weapon upgrade point, but there are tons of other ones, which I've done them all just because I played the game a lot, that are like per week. So at the moment there's a whole bunch of week 1 milestones where it's like kill a pinky this many times with this kind of weapon, and you unlock progress and experience on that bar. But for instance, I've done all ones in week 1, but that's because I've played the campaign 1.5 times. Once it hits week 2, what incentive do I have to go back and play the campaign again? Like, what's the point in doing those milestones unless you're constantly replaying the campaign? Yeah. Because you can't earn them in the battle mode, so what's the point of them?
But it unlocks cosmetics that are going to be of benefit to the people who actually enjoy playing battle mode the most. So I think it's designed and aimed at the people who will enjoy it and get the most out of it.
Yep. So, but what I'm saying is you don't earn those in battle mode. You earn them by playing the campaign.
Yeah, true.
So that means in order to earn these milestones to get the rewards for the battle mode, you need to go back and replay the campaign according to Doom Eternal.
Next
year.
Gotcha.
Like,
yeah.
I don't understand what the point of that is.
Yeah, it very much does strike me as like Doom Eternal should not be the sort of game where you have to keep playing it to enjoy the most of it. Like you should play it, go, that was fucking awesome, I want to play it again, but not because you're going to unlock cosmetics or anything.
You don't have to. I mean, you could just choose not to interface with that part of the content. So
it's just weird.
Yeah. The only way I can see it happening is by killing the demons that are spawned by the demon players. So a good example is one of those milestones was like destroy 30 Arachnotron turrets, which in my mind is like, okay, you do that in a campaign, but I guess you could do that in battle mode, I suppose. But you fight far less Arachnotrons, so maybe that's what it's for.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, Doom's
good. Good game is good. Some interesting takes and minor gripes, but I think overall we all had a pretty good time. So yeah.
Yep.
The other side of the coin, Animal Crossing. So Adrian, you can take a break for a sec, I guess. Stay on the call. Stay on the call. All right. So Animal Crossing, New Horizons. Matt, what did you think of your new island life?
So I am surprised by the fact that I went into Doom Eternal being like, I'm really going to enjoy Doom Eternal. And then I didn't enjoy it as much as I expected. I went into Animal Crossing New Horizons being like, I'm not really going to enjoy it that much because I'd fallen off the wagon with, I forget the last one on the 3DS.
New Leaf?
New Leaf, yeah. Like I played a bunch of New Leaf. Grindy. I've booted up New Horizons and I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. It's actually really kind of nice and relaxing. I'm not playing it in a grindy fashion at all. I'm kind of playing it as like a routine thing almost. Like I hop into the game, I run around my town, I do a little bit of fishing, I collect all the fruit that's grown, plant some new trees and everything if I have new fruit trees that I can plant. And like just kind of just progress this cute little town, and it's been quite nice, especially in with everything else that's going on at the moment. It's been a really just super pleasant little escape. I love that it's such a slow burn game, because it literally is like you can just hop in, make progress in an hour, and that's literally all the progress you're going to make in a day.
I actually think it's one of the best things ever that it released at the same time as Doom, because I think Doom and Animal Crossing are like the perfect combination, and I enjoyed playing both of them greatly this week, because I think Doom you need to take breaks from. Like, it's so intense and so full on, especially the music and all that kind of stuff, that you need a break every so often just to kind of decompress. And then Animal Crossing like won't let you play too much of it because it's literally time gated. So there's a point at which you can't get any more done. You go back to Doom, so it's like the perfect pairing. So
it's like salted caramel, right? Like you kind of get like that kind of salty taste with Doom, with all the fucking blood and everything, and then you kind of get the caramel thing with that thing, and they do actually make a surprisingly good pairing. Like Adrian's just licking the air. Like Adrian's like, all I taste is salt, and that seems appropriate.
I think the best comparison I can make, because I actually love this combination, is Vegemite and chocolate. So I don't know if you guys ever ate that Vegemite.
I tried it. I wasn't a huge fan.
I loved it. So good.
I enjoyed the Vegemite.
I think the one thing that kind of comes to mind with Animal Crossing is like I didn't play the last game a whole lot, and so playing this game, Animal Crossing makes a lot of assumptions about what you know about Animal Crossing. It doesn't really tell you what to do, and so there's a whole bunch of things, like little tricks that like change the gameplay experience so much in such a positive way that are just carryovers from previous games, that you basically have to open up a wiki and be like, okay, how the hell do I do this? And so like a lot of players will complain about like there's this iron ore grind like really, really early on in the game to make a shop building. But the way to get iron ore quickly is to dig a whole bunch of holes next to rocks whenever you're hitting them with a hammer or a shovel, I should say, because that guarantees you'll get more iron ore out of it. But the game never tells you that there's a strategy for that.
Do you understand why that is, though?
Because you don't get pushed back so far.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, like you have a limited amount of time to actually all the items out of a rock. But if you don't do that strategy, you will never get all the items out of it. And it's one of those things where it's like the Animal Crossing community knows that, and every single Animal Crossing player that has played a previous game will just go in there, dig those holes before they even hit their first rock. Where other players, new players, will hear, okay, so if you go and eat fruit and then go and hit stuff, like you become stronger, and then immediately shatter their first rock. And so I have friends that have never played an Animal Crossing game, and now their towns have no rocks to get iron out of.
That's
because they shattered all of them.
Bad thing to have happen. Yeah.
Because the game doesn't communicate that stuff, and they thought that was the way they got iron out of the game.
Does it not repopulate those rocks?
No, it does not repopulate them.
So is every person's island originally laid out exactly the same, or is it randomly generated?
It's randomly generated. Everyone gets different islands, but you always have a certain number of rocks on there.
There's four basic layouts. There's 4 basic layouts you can choose from, and a little bit of random placement within those layouts. But the layouts are kind of like where the rivers are situated, where the sort of platform areas are. So, like
you choose from 4, but they're randomly generated.
So are those friends of yours fucked?
No, they're not fucked. So you can get this ticket to get off the island, and you go to these randomly generated islands that no players inhabit, and those have rocks and such on them. But then you have to. They regenerate. Like every single time you go to one, like you can never go back to the same one ever again.
Right.
But you have to spend currency to get out there then, versus just going to your island every day. And then like 2 days, you can get all the iron ore you need from your island alone. Unless you destroy all the rocks.
These other islands are literally places you go just to strip of resources. Like you just
pretty much.
Them all out. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you can get content from those that you wouldn't be able to get in the season that you're currently in, for example. Or new fruit, flowers, like bamboo plants if you don't have them on your island.
You also select whether you want to start in a northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere climate as well, and that influences what things are available at that time of year. So
Yeah, because I have a whole bunch of American friends that are like, Matt, let me hop game, get all the stuff for the museum. And it's like, fine. And then I basically have to deal with a whole bunch of people running around fishing and grabbing bugs and such in my game.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's probably my biggest gripe with it, is that it doesn't communicate to those new players particularly well. I'm a returning player, but I'm not a returning hardcore player, and so there's just stuff in there that, like, you know, it doesn't make clear at all. And so I have some friends who, like, there's a freaking pelican that turns up on your island that shore. My friends, whenever I go visit their islands, that guy's walking around. On my island, he's been fucking face down on the beach for a couple of days now, and I have no idea what to do about it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you want me to tell you what to do about it?
No.
All right.
That's the game's fault.
Yeah. It's fair. It's fair.
Obviously, you meant to eat that pelican.
Yeah, clearly. I have assumptions. I have ideas. Preach that, and I want to try them out. But the fact that the game doesn't really tell you anything is a little bit bad in that situation.
The game does actually give you some tips as time progresses, like particularly when you speak to the two younger Nook raccoons. But it usually waits for you to go a few days without doing the thing you're supposed to be doing before it tells you the thing you're supposed to be doing. So that can be a little frustrating. Yeah. And this is like days in real time, like not days in the game. Like everything is synced to real time. So that can be really annoying when you realize you just lost 2 or 3 days worth of progress because of something dumb that you haven't done. But I mean, you can look it up, I guess. Yeah.
But I'm in no rush is the thing, right? Like, so I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Like one of my friends, I should say a friend of a friend, they were running around in my server, and they suddenly pulled out a ladder, and I'm like, where the fuck do you get a ladder from? And they're running around on areas of my island that I can't reach, and they're like, hey, there's a whole bunch of fossils up here. Do you want to have them? And I'm like, no, because I haven't earned them yet, right? Like, they'd be digging them up and giving me things that I haven't earned access to.
Yeah.
Check the system, Matt.
But that's exactly what they've done. They've cheated. They've time skipped. Like, there's a way in the game that you can time skip to skip content, essentially. And a whole bunch of players are running around doing that. And now they have hundreds of thousands of bells. They've got fully built up houses and everything like that.
I was just reading an article earlier today about a strategy for how to set up a tarantula island on like one of the ones
I saw that. I fucking love it. It's horrible.
As a massive money-making thing, and I'm just like, man, that is a weird level of Animal Crossing strategy that I'm just not ready for yet. So.
Like, for context, Adrian, like, it is as awful as it sounds, because basically you strip your island of every single tree and just leave the stumps. And like get rid of every other type of animal, because tarantulas apparently don't want to live on islands that have other animals on them, and they want tree stumps. So you just like craft your island to be the perfect tarantula haven, and then just catch hundreds of fucking tarantulas.
Yeah,
it sounds awful,
and they're worth a lot of money.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, what's the end goal of having mass tarantulas?
You get money, and then you build up your island the way you want.
And it's the Twitter,
so you have
Twitter
money
memes.
for-
The Twitter meme game is real strong if you do that as well. So, you know.
Right. Okay.
It's funny, actually. Like, I've been paying attention to a lot of people posting about the game on social media this last week, because there's been a lot. And I've seen some amazing creativity with some people, because there's actually, like, some editors in game where you can create your own shirt designs and create your own wallpapers and stuff like that, which is really fucking cool. Like, people have, like, created, like, full-on, like, horror vignettes in their homes with like blood splatters up and down the walls and all sorts of weird shit like that, which is cool. But the other thing that I've noticed is there's a lot of people tweeting about how they have rolled credits on the game already. And some of these people probably got a hold of advanced copies for press purposes. But even so, like, I read those comments, like, you've rolled credits on Animal Crossing already. You're playing the game wrong. That is not how this game is supposed to be played. Yeah.
Like, it is meant to be a relaxed game. It's meant to be a long burn. Like, when I was playing New Leaf, like, I played that game for like a year and a half. And it was just basically constantly getting bells and like repeating these routines and everything like that to earn as much money as possible to make my island the way I wanted it. I never rolled credits. So I can't imagine what those people that are doing if they're rolling credits, when I felt like what I was doing before was a grind, right?
Yeah.
It's like going into Minecraft and saying, okay, well, I finished Minecraft credits. Like, you're playing it wrong if that's what you're doing.
But like Minecraft, I mean, rolling credits in Minecraft is killing the end dragon, and the game is so not done at that point. It's going to be the same as that anyway. Like,
Animal Crossing is like that. Yeah. Like, you know, you roll credits, it's not over. But to roll credits, it takes so much time and effort that if you get it done in just a couple of days, like you've clearly just put in effort to make up for the time. It's just insane.
Is it a crafting game? Is that what it is?
Yeah, there's a lot of crafting. Yeah. You do build out a collection of blueprints. That's one of the big things. I mean, like
world crafting, not just item crafting. Like, is it Minecraft but with animals? Is that
it's sort of like it has a lot in common with like The Sims, where you're kind of like building and customizing like this cute little island. You put up houses for other people to live in and that sort of thing. Right. But there's a lot more Minecrafty style stuff in there where you gather materials. You capture bugs and fish and that sort of thing to put into a museum. So it's like a little collection game.
I think in a lot of ways, the comparison that I draw to sort of illustrate to people what this game is like, if they're familiar with this, it's a lot like Stardew Valley without the fun. Yeah.
Yes.
I was about to say without the fun.
Yeah, without the farming. And you say without the fun jokingly, but like that's actually probably the thing that I would say. Like, don't get me wrong, I really like Animal Crossing New Horizons. I think it's a fantastic game. It's a lot of fun. The real time sort of link with it to force you to play it gradually is cool, and I enjoy that quite a bit. But I cannot, like in good conscience, say that comparing it to Stardew Valley does it any favors, because Stardew Valley shits all over it when it comes to how much stuff you can do in Stardew. You know, Animal Crossing is great. It does. The fact that Stardew is so much better doesn't make Animal Crossing bad. It just means that there's another game out there that does what it does and a whole other bunch of stuff besides. So
I wouldn't say it's better. I'd say like they're very different games. Like they have similar mechanics, but like Stardew is very directed, whereas Animal Crossing is meant to be relaxed. It's meant to be just kind of like this chill out thing that you do in your free downtime, essentially. Whereas Stardew is very much like you've got a goal that you're working towards, and there's a very clear kind of overarching narrative that sometimes causes pressure, I think. So they're kind of games, different games in that respect. Like you're not going to go and start hacking up slimes in Animal Crossing. Like that's if they added that for Animal Crossing, I think they would actually detract from what Animal Crossing is.
Yeah.
Whereas for Stardew, it works, right?
Is Animal Crossing, is its legs its purity? Is that what it is? Like, people are attracted to it because of its like wholesomeness?
Yeah, like the lead designer on it has talked about like how the inspiration for Animal Crossing was catching bugs with his friends in the forests around where they lived. I believe that was what I recall reading. But
is Animal Crossing a cult?
Yes.
Well, no more than any other fandom.
I don't know. There's something creepy about their vacant stares and their strange animal heads.
It is 100% a cult, but it's got like cults within the cult. Yeah, because like you'll get specific people that really want to get certain villages living in their town, right. And they obsess over those villages until they get them.
If it's a cult, it's a pretty wholesome one.
It is a wholesome cult, yes.
Yeah. Okay. The game is weird. I've been thinking about it. The only thing I can add is like there's something about Animal Crossing that doesn't appeal to me, in that the game is about collecting and creating something. But then if you have no one to show, then it's kind of like pointless in my mind. Yeah. Like it's like a pointless game where unless you're sharing what you've created, for me it feels pointless.
Yeah.
Whereas in other games you play it to experience the game. It's only a matter of taste. I can't sell this point on any like objective empirical merit. It's purely on what I like. Because you can argue that, well, you play any game to experience it. So what's the difference between you experience Animal Crossing? But in my mind, it's too loose a system and too undefined an end result.
Christian was saying this last week when he was talking about whether he was going to pick it up or not, because his big point that he made was that he'll pick it up if he thinks that enough people he knows in his community are playing it so he can enjoy that aspect.
And I think maybe I've never had that before. I can kind of get on board with the idea of like, you create your own island and then your friends check out your island. But in my mind, when I think of that happening, I'm just like, but who gives a shit? Like, I don't give a shit about your islands. Why would you give a shit about my islands? Like, I don't know, maybe I'm just curmudgeon-y and like kind of don't see the point of it. I find in my mind it's like a really pointless game, but I understand why people dig it. Like I think I can cognitively I can piece it together.
Yeah.
But intrinsically, I'm just like, what? Like,
I actually enjoy it because it's pointless.
Yeah.
Like because there's not really any like pressing objective in there. Like you're just kind of like moving things along in little general ways.
Let's not ignore the point that it's kind of launched at the perfect time as well. Like it's in that perfect storm of what's been happening with the pandemic. So yeah,
absolutely.
I am tempted to try it because if everyone else is playing it, if you two are playing it and Christian's playing it, maybe by experiencing it, it'll click. And like I'll like it because I'll finally understand it. But looking at it from a distance, it's like, what the fuck is Animal Crossing? Like,
if you want to play it and go in with the expectation that you'll play a little bit sort of every day or every couple of days and just enjoy like a short time session with it as opposed to binging it like you usually binge games, I think going in with that expectation will do you a lot of favors. Yeah.
Like an hour a day. Like that's really all you need with Animal Crossing.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I could do that. I do like the idea of those kinds of games like that you have on your mobile where you open your mobile app, you click a couple of things, build that, hit that, and then it's time gated so you forget about it and come back tomorrow.
A lot of it feels like a mobile game in that respect, actually. It really does.
I do kind of like that. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be the weirdest part. You know, the main reason I don't like Animal Crossing is that all the animals that I've seen are like mammals and like warm-blooded mammals, and they're my least favorite kind of animal. So for a game called Animal Crossing, I don't like the animals.
There's a whole bunch of others.
Are there like reptiles and like bug men? Are there any bug men?
Not bug men, not as far as I'm aware.
So give me bug men and maybe I'd be into it. But like
there's like a whale girl, I believe.
Whale girl, fishmen?
I believe so.
Are there fishmen? Other fishmen?
I don't know about other fishmen.
Yeah.
No, they're mostly
mammals. I don't like woodland creatures. I'm not a fan of woodland creatures. Yeah, I don't like mammals.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to buy into Animal Crossing when I don't like the animals.
And one of the most evil fucking capitalist demon raccoons you've ever met. Yeah.
See, I don't like raccoons.
Tom Nook is a builder.
Tom Nook is a fucking villain, is what he is.
It sounds like Tom Nook was a cult leader, and you guys...
You're not far off.
The only other thing I was going to say about it, like, and one of the other reasons I quite enjoy it, and it's for the same reason I enjoy Stellaris, is that I'm secretly massively fucking antisocial. And like sometimes I just need to get away from people. And like Stellaris and Animal Crossing are fucking great for that. It's just basically like, look, fuck off. My island's closed. Nobody's welcome.
Social distancing. Yep.
Yeah. Like social. Like I'm here at home. Also, stay the fuck out of my game.
Yeah.
And once you visit a friend's island, you have to self-isolate for 14 days when you go home anyway. So
yeah.
Sounds about right. All right. Well, I mean, Animal Crossing also a good game. I think.
One last question. I know that bug catching is a big thing. Can you catch like rhino beetles?
Yeah.
Are they a type of bug? Because that might be enough. That might be.
They're a type of bug. I have in my house like I have grown plants around my house that attract praying mantises because I love praying mantises.
Okay.
And so I caught like I forget what they're called. It's like a really kind of floral looking pink praying mantis and the standard green ones.
Yeah. Like
so I've caught it's like an orchid mantis. Yeah. So I've caught both, put them in the museum, and then caught another two to put in my house, and I'll probably just catch more and fill my house with mantises.
Yeah,
that sounds good. Is there a way for me to become a bug man in that game?
You could totally dress in attire that would make you look like one.
Actually, yeah.
You could design your own shirt.
You could customize your own shirt, customize your own hat, make yourself a bug man.
Yeah. And Adrian, you might be pleased to know as well that there are turtles in the game. There's a turtle you can catch, but the one that I'm aware of you can only catch after 9 p.m. at night. So... Speaking of which, all right.
Is there are there crabs? Can you catch crabs?
I believe so.
Oh, I've definitely caught a lobster. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. We'll see.
Yeah. Selling Adrian on the simple stuff. Nice. All right. Well, we've run super long, so hopefully everybody that's kept on this far has enjoyed our discussion around Doom and Animal Crossing. You think it's going to be a light show, and we're only talking about 2 games, but we can talk a lot about these 2 particular games. Absolutely. So hopefully we'll all 4 of us be back on deck next week with Christian. No doubt he'll get a chance to play those and offer some additional commentary when we resume. But yeah, hope everybody's enjoyed. I hope you're staying safe at home. I hope you're doing all the right things with regards to your fellow humans and isolating and flattening the curve and all that kind of stuff.
Do.
Not going to preach to you. Just do the right thing. Be sensible. Don't be
Take
dicks.
care of each other.
If you don't, we'll be very disappointed in you.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially me.
Yeah. And we'll send Adrian
That
through
would
to
be
smash all your rocks on your island. Yep.
That's right.
All right. Emails as usual, mail at partyloaded.com, at partyloaded show on Twitter, partyloaded on Facebook, everything else at channelendgame.com. That's it. That's it for us tonight. More games next week. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe. We'll chat to you then. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Bye.
Later, gang.
The Party Loaded podcast is a Channel Endgame production. For this and more great gaming content, bookmark channelendgame.com.